there will be a chance that the NLD will call for a re-election?
We are not calling for re-elections, and we have never said that we are interested in calling for another election. I think this is a very, very premature question.
Okay. You mentioned in your November the 14th conference that you thought education was paramount to reform in Burma. Do you think an issue such as education could provide a platform for you and your party to work with the government?
Health, education, anything that really affects the welfare of people, we would be very, very happy to cooperate with anybody.
And can you envisage a time when the military is ready to work with the NLD? And
I think there must come a time when the military decides to cooperate with the forces and represent the people.
The UN Special Rapporteur for Human Rights, who visited Burma, has called for a launch of a commission inquiry into human rights abuses in Burma. There's some uncertainty as to your stance on the matter. Would it be fair to say you would not like the formulation of a commission of inquiry?
No, I've said nothing of the kind. I think you're talking about the New York Times article where all I said was that I've never called for the generals to be had up at a court and tried. That has nothing to do whatsoever with Professor Quintana's proposals. It's a different issue altogether.
Okay. Do you think that how do you think some kind of method of accountability can be introduced into a future Burma?
Well, we've always asked for transparency and accountability in governance. Good governance requires transparency and accountability. And this is something that we have to talk about. People talk about the fact that perhaps the military are nervous because we will take action against them if ever there were a democratic government, and they would be made to pay for this and for that. But this is just mere speculation, and it is precisely because of fears like that that we need to talk to each other to sort out what we really want for our country.
So, would you say at the moment that the most important thing for collaboration between the military and the NLD is dialogue and
isn't that
interaction?
The most important thing for anybody any two parties who want to work together to start talking to each other?
Yes, and do you think that is a realistic?
Why not? If people keep saying you've asked for a dialogue for a long time and the SPDC has not responded, so why do you keep on persisting? But if people felt that we would never have progress as a human race, would we? I mean, we'd have to go back right to the beginning, and those apes would have said, why are we trying to get up on two legs? You'll never get that.
Okay.
And yet here we are, standing up.
Okay, thank you. How do you think that the NLD and politics in general are approached by Burmese youth today?
I for myself found far greater participation of youth in political activities than was the case 7 years ago. So I think the youth are much more aware of the fact that they need to be part of those who are working for change. That they just can't sit back and expect change to happen without any effort on their parts. So it's a good thing, good change.
Yes. Do you think that there will be any efforts to increase freedom of media or freedom of...
Aren't they trying all the time? Internet. After all, there are a lot of new journals in Burma, and I think they have some little problems about my photographs appearing in the journals, etc. But they seem to be continuing with their efforts, which is a good thing. It's a good move forward.
Okay. Do you think there will be any movement regarding instigating more young members coming into the NLD, taking more influential roles?
Oh yes, we've started that already. We have a lot of younger people in rather responsible positions. I mean, you've heard of Shu Thing, she's young, but she's only made a member of the Central Committee, and she's holding in charge of our HIV shelter. Of course, we give her all the help we can, but we also give her the independence to decide what happens in her center.
Okay, great. whilst you were under house arrest, you were able somewhat to talk to world media, but your dialogue with the Burmese society was much more constrained. How do you individually propose to overcome this obstacle now you're in the public eye?
Well, first of all, I can meet a lot of people face to face, and not all the individuals in Burma, but certainly parties of individuals and so on. This morning I met families of political prisoners, and then of course I've been able to get across to the people through the media.
Okay. And, okay, thank you. What's your position on the legitimacy of economic deals brokered between the junta and foreign governments and companies?
I think this depends on the kind of contracts they've made, doesn't it?
Yes.
I mean, we believe in the rule of law, and whatever we do, we'll respect the rule of law.
Okay. And do you think that deals already brokered, and, for example, do you think that the revenue from natural gas and oil sales, what changes do you think could be made so that that revenue can be put into the development?
To do more with accountability and transparency than with the actual brokers' deals. This is why we say that good governance requires transparency and accountability. It is because the public do not know what is happening to the revenues that we can't do anything about using them more effectively in the country in general.
So would you advise a moratorium on junta or on military, government and international companies' deals? Would you advise a complete halt?
No, we've never said that there should be a moratorium or a halt. What we've always said that there should be transparency and accountability to make sure that whatever deals they are to be they are to profit the benefit of the people.
And so what practical changes do you think could be implicated to enable that to happen?
Well, it's a whole movement for better governance, isn't it?
Okay.
You can't just take it apart. You can't just take deals for gas or whatever apart from this whole situation in the country.
Okay. So for example, the land confiscation that has occurred in Burma, do you think that housing, land and property rights can be revised in future Burma?
That's to do with the rule of law, isn't it? Because some of the land that has been confiscated contrary to existing laws. So this is why we make such a fuss about the rule of law, why we put such emphasis on the rule of law.
Okay.
And the NLD does everything it can practically to help these people whose land has been confiscated. We provide free legal help.
Okay, thank you. Many of your supporters have denounced the Obama administration's coupling of engagement with punitive measures on Burma. Do you feel that relations between the NLD and Washington have undergone more tension now than previously?
I don't feel that personally, because I believe in engagement. I think you should engage with everyone. I said from the very beginning when the Obama administration said that they would use both sanctions and engagement in dealing with the regime. I said that I perfectly agree with it, but they must engage with us on an equal basis.
Okay, so how do you feel about the US looking to open up economic opportunities for US companies?
But that has to do with the sanctions,
Okay.
so that has nothing to do with engagement.
So would you recommend highly researched and targeted sanctions?
We've said that we'll review the whole matter of sanctions as to whether the sanctions are really hurting the people, what the effects of the sanctions are. There is an economic aspect to sanctions as there is a political aspect to sanctions. And I've said that we'll review the sanction situation, as we have done from time to time. Perhaps you're aware that a year ago I did propose to the SPDC that I'm prepared to cooperate with them to in working to remove the sanctions that were hurting the people, if there were anything that were hurting the people. So this is not a new policy. We've always held that such policies and sanctions should be reviewed from time to time, which we will do.
Okay. There's been concern of the military's nuclear ambitions recently. What's your position on the role of nuclear energy and power in Burmese society in future?
I think we need to be a lot more efficient before we start engaging in things like nuclear stations, because that needs a high degree of efficiency and security and safety precautions, which is why, again, it all comes back to transparency and accountability. If there's no transparency, we really don't know what's going on. We don't know whether there is there's a big nuclear station being built or not.
Okay.
We don't know anything. The public doesn't know anything.
Okay. So do you think that transparency and accountability, which would require a transparent legal system, do you think that the military is ready to cooperate to create one?
I don't think the military has shown any particular keenness for transparency and accountability, but that is no reason why we shouldn't call for it. If, in fact, they had been accountable and transparent, we wouldn't have had to call for it. There would have been no need for us to insist that there should be transparency and accountability. It's not a matter of what the military wants or what the military does not want. It's a matter of what is needed for a country.
Okay, thank you. At your speech you gave on November the 14th, you called for the release of all other political prisoners. Do you think any steps are being made currently? Are steps being taken by the NLD to ensure that?
We've always been trying to achieve the release of political prisoners, but when you say what steps are the NLD doing to release them, it's not for us to release them or not release them. What we have to do is to try to create a situation in which the authorities will be persuaded to release them as soon as possible.
So practically, how do you feel engagement will go with the authorities? How do you feel? Do you feel like they are willing to cooperate and ready?
Well, they haven't shown signs of cooperation in the past, but that doesn't mean, as I said earlier, that you can't go and try. You have to go and try. If you think that, well, they're not interested, therefore we're not going to try, then you might as well not have tried from the beginning.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that all?
That's all, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No, not at all.